All right, you're very welcome along. It is New Year's Eve. Who thought that we were going to make it all the way to New Year's Eve to say goodbye to this godforsaken year? Owen, how the hell are you? Owen Sheahan, how the hell are you? Well, that would be the most 2020 thing that has happened to us all year. Nathan Murphy, how the hell are you?
I've never been better, Jer. Jesus Christ. This has been, some would say, the pinnacle of Off the Balls 2020.
Happy New Year to one and all. Can you hear us now, Owen?
I can hear you now. I don't know what's happened right there.
Ah, right.
I can see you, and I thought by looking closer at the screen, my volume would also go up, but actually no, that is not how it works.
It's a Jedi mind trick. Well, yeah, just to bring everybody, to open the kimono a little bit and bring everybody along, what we're doing today is we're looking back at highlights, in inverted commas. We're putting 2020 in a time capsule so that when they open it in a decade, when they look back and they go, what was it really like to, to be on the front line of sports coverage? Shouldn't have said that. To talk incessantly about stuff that was happening that doesn't really matter. What was that like? And that's what the point of this morning's programme is. Nathan is here to talk about football, and we'll talk about the Ireland stuff in a minute. But I want to start by playing a happier time when there were fans in stadiums and we had live games from the ground every Sunday. Have a listen.
United getting back. Mo Salah to settle for Liverpool. Salah scores in front of the Kop, and Liverpool are going 16 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. And Alisson runs the length of the pitch to celebrate. It's 2-0 at Anfield, and it's never heard noise like it. Mo Salah wins the game for Liverpool.
What was it actually like to be there?
Magic. As I say, the noise from the Kop. Because Liverpool knew at that stage that they were probably going to win the Premier League title. They're the commanding lead. This is last January. It's almost a year ago at this stage. But Manchester United are on the attack in the last minute. They have a corner. There's that fatalism that is there around Liverpool supporters, or that was there of, well, something will surely go horribly wrong at some stage, that United will probably pop up and equalise and they won't get that minute of glory, have it already drawn at Old Trafford, having won every single other game so far that season, except against Manchester United. Winning the league, as much as it would mean, you need to beat United as well. And to go from one end of the pitch to the other in the final minute, knowing that not just are they beating Manchester United, that's it. That is the title essentially there and then. Remember, Liverpool went 25 points clear at one stage last season. And we were there for a lot of the big days, even at the start of 2019, Manchester City, Spurs, and the atmosphere around the stadium pre-match and the atmosphere when, say, You'll Never Walk Alone started, well, every time you would hear it, would send shivers up your spine. The noise level just rose and rose. And at that stage in January, you're thinking, what is this going to be like in the middle of May on that final home game of the season when Jordan Henderson lifts the Premier League trophy? What is the city of Liverpool going to be like that weekend when people are staying over for the weekend, so they're still there for the parade through the city? And obviously, the world changed, and that didn't happen. They won the title. But I think it's such a terrible shame for so many people who, from this country, who travel over every single weekend. And when we're going over to games, you would meet them time and time again, spending an absolute fortune, particularly in recent years where it's so hard to get tickets, where it's so hard to get flights, to go over every single Saturday or Sunday. And then having waited so long to actually be denied that moment to be there when it finally did happen.
Yeah, I can see how they will lament that. But at the same time, football came back. There was a period there where it was like, oh, no, season's done. All the Man United fans were like, no, that's it. Just going to have to, no winner. Don't think it would be fair to have a winner. And then they got football back and they did win it. So, my sympathy for Liverpool fans is diminished somewhat by the fact that they are supporters of currently the most exciting team in world football to watch.
Yeah, and maybe that's the most surprising thing that happened, was just how good Liverpool were. If you look at their success in the 30 years since they won the title, generally it's been drama from Champions League in 2005, Steven Gerrard's equaliser in the FA Cup final, even the League Cup they won was a penalty shootout, the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona. I think most Liverpool supporters felt that when it came, they would either somehow creep over the line or to be this mad, dramatic moment where they somehow steal it on the last day, a reverse Michael Thomas. I don't think anybody really expected until the last couple of years that they would go and win it so convincingly. Remember, they went into last season chasing a historically good side in Manchester City. And just through their sheer relentless brilliance, particularly in those first 5-6 months of the season, they wore Manchester City down, like 27 games unbeaten with just one draw in that before that defeat to Watford just before the lockdown, and putting together a team that every time you watch them, you couldn't but be impressed with their attitude and the quality of players they have as well. I know they're going through like most teams, a bit of inconsistency so far this season. But there was definitely, around that time, that Manchester United game, you're looking at the Liverpool side thinking, they arguably have the best goalkeeper in the world, right back, left back, centre back, and a front three that is a match for any side in Europe. And all of that obviously comes down to the genius of their manager. So, yeah, like what a team, what a 2020. And it doesn't feel as though they're going away anytime soon.
No, that's the other thing. It's like, as long as Klopp is here, it feels like it's sustainable. You would hope that whoever gets the gig next somehow can match him. Stephen Gerrard seems to be doing an okay job at Rangers, but it's a massive step up. So there's always that, particularly now with managers, that you don't have this forever. It's not going to last forever. That someone's going to come along and knock you off your effing perch.
Yeah, and talking about the crowds, there's also what he has brought to Anfield over the 5 and a bit years he's been there. When I started covering games for Off the Ball, you'd be at Anfield on a regular basis, and well, the Chelsea game is probably the most famous one, but there was even that first year under Klopp, so often you would go, the nervousness, how quickly the supporters would get on the players' back, time and time again, going in front and giving up leads, drawing games against lesser opposition. Even that last game, the last time they were beaten at Anfield, and we're going on, nearly 4 years now since they were beaten at Anfield? Going on 4 years since they were beaten at Anfield against Crystal Palace, and Christian Benteke scores, and you just feel there's no momentum, there's no consistency. And to go on the run they have over 60 games at Anfield, it is that fortress that I suppose people grew up hearing about, but for a long time just wasn't that. And being able to sustain it when the supporters aren't there, God knows what it'll be like when they get a full stadium sometime, you hope, in 2021. Yeah,
and hopefully sooner rather than later once the vaccine kicks in. Eoin, so we're getting everybody to pick moments. Nathan's moment is that goal. It's obviously a moment that revolves around his own piece of brilliant commentary, which, I hope everybody spotted very quickly there, that there's a whole year of moments to pick from, and he happens to pick the one that is his commentary. But sure, look, he likes to share the glory around. As an Arsenal fan, do you feel, that you're emboldened and in raptures of joy that you're witness to this brilliant Liverpool team?
Absolutely. A fantastic team, of course. Stumbled against Watford, stumbled against Manchester City, stumbled against Arsenal. A full 3 games beaten in last season, apparently one of the greatest Premier League seasons we're ever likely to see. So, of course, that definitely warms the cockles when Ismaila Sarr is running around. Who was in goal that night? Alisson in goal that night. Just a phenomenal moment of the season, and showing the mortality of these great Liverpool men. Of course, certain Premier League winners of yesteryear have shown that they weren't mortal whatsoever, and purely unadulterated undefeatedness, brilliance. That's what we had in 2004. But Liverpool, they were phenomenal. I wonder, Nathan, is there a sense of fear that there won't be a similar reason to go as crazy maybe next year or the year after, whenever full stadiums do return, that the manner in which they won this year's Premier League is the only way that true joy could have been experienced, and it is a moment that is forever missed, that doing back-to-back titles or going on this run now that we expect from Liverpool over the next little while perhaps won't be met with the same level of, oh my God, I can't believe that's happened.
I think come May, if Liverpool were to manage to go back-to-back and it's a full Anfield, you will see something similar. You're right, though. We all imagine what it will be like when we're allowed back into stadiums and when we're allowed experience sort of the unexpected joy that sport can bring. And will there be a certain fakeness to that? Will we be sort of forcing ourselves to get more excited than we naturally would? You look at what's going on in Australia and New Zealand at the moment, where sport is back and they're being played in front of potentially full stadiums, where actually I'm watching a lot of rugby games and the stadiums aren't full. And I'm thinking, I thought we were all going to go and savor all these moments, and the second we're allowed back in, every match will be packed to the rafters. But actually it seems, when the option is there, life goes back to normal quite quickly, and sometimes you go to a game, sometimes you don't. And maybe it will be just, Liverpool are like Manchester United were back in the 90s if they can go back-to-back, and it's just another game. Yeah, we celebrate, but that opportunity that you say to go absolutely full wild.
They had it. They had it at that game, and that's why this moment actually really works. That game, we knew that they had wrapped up the league at that point. Everything that came afterwards was the matter of degrees, but it was impossible for them to blow that. And I know the Liverpool fans have notoriously, and rightly so, been very scared about counting their chickens in recent seasons, in essentially 25 years. But like at the same time, we all knew that Liverpool had won the title. We knew that Liverpool had won the title last November. So this time last year, we actually knew that they already had the title wrapped up because Man City had crapped out so spectacularly. But I think they would have had it that night when you beat Manchester United 2-0, when you do it with that goal at the end of the game, where there is a surge of energy and noise in the crowd. That's the moment that you go, this is what it feels like to be league champions and title winners. Okay.
And there's different ways of doing it as well. So you mentioned that Arsenal side, Eoin. Obviously, they never went back to back. So they never had that experience of doing it 2 years in a row. Whereas you look at Manchester United, Liverpool will never win a league like they won this one, where they've won it with 7 games to go and there's the break and they come back and you're sort of just waiting for the inevitable. But you look at the way United won the league sometimes, when you end up with a battle, as more likely than not is going to happen this season, it'll go down to the final couple of games, that you will have that drama and you'll have that burst, that single burst of energy where it probably will come down to sort of one match in that final 3-4 game stretch. So I think in all likelihood there will be a moment to match that for somebody this season.
Yeah, I hope so. Like I think that there have been so many incredible heights in football over the last 10 years or so, whether it was Pep's Barcelona or Pep's Manchester City, or even the post-Pep years of Barcelona as well, where you start to question if a certain team will last forever. And I think we actually got to that stage with Manchester City a couple of years ago, before Liverpool came to the boil, where we thought to ourselves, God, Manchester City could win 3 or 4 league titles here in a row. They're spending more money. They've got the best manager in the world, it seems, and there's only one way they're going. That it does seem that there is a caution again this year almost with Liverpool fans, where they realise the value of going back to back. They realise how tough a thing it is to do, that maybe when they do get back, hopefully by the end of this season, that there will be the sense of, hold on a minute, this is bloody special as well, actually doing 2 in a row.
All right, we are deciding what's going on what's going in the OTB Time Capsule to sum up the year that was. Nathan has picked one of his own commentary pieces for Mo Salah scoring against Manchester United and wrapping up the league for Liverpool. Our second moment number 2, is Eoin Sheahan. The stage is yours. What have you picked?
Well, it's going to be Stephen Kenny becoming Republic of Ireland manager. We knew it was going to be something that would have happened this year. We didn't know when it was going to happen. We knew that the Slovakia game was getting pushed back and back and back to an uncertain date. And the FAI obviously came in before the summertime and pulled the plug on Mick McCarthy and inserted Stephen Kenny into the job. A story, of course, broke here on Off the Ball that Saturday. Of course, everything that's happened since then has been a mini story in itself. Take your pick. Is it the COVID tests before that Slovakia game, the subsequent COVID shit shows that have happened in other games post that, the battle of the soul of Irish football, as you put it yourself, Ger? If it's going to be something like that, I think it's going to be remembered for quite some time, but perhaps not for great reasons. I would like to think, though, that in a time capsule sense, we'll open this up in years to come and say, that short-term pain was definitely worth it for what was about to happen, because I don't think there is any middle ground here, that if Stephen Kenny isn't Ireland manager at the end of the 2022 World Cup qualification cycle, I don't think we'll be going towards a manager of his ilk yet again. I think that what you said about the soul of Irish football being up for debate and being up for battle, I think that's certainly true. It ends on a bad note this year. The leak from the camp was the last thing we saw from Ireland before the year wrapped up on the international front. And that's how we go into 2021. So a bad year for Irish football, no question. But the story has been Stephen Kenny being brought in and what he's shown as a manager so far, because unlike the rugby team, which we'll get to later on, there is a clear identity and at least we know where we want to go.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. And he talked about that identity actually with John Duggan shortly after becoming Ireland boss, explaining how he wants his side to play. Have a look.
I think from my point of view, I will look to, I only get one crack at this and I will look to change the way we play. It is important to me. It is very, very important to me. And I think to a lot of people, they want to really see a vibrant Irish team passing the ball well, cohesively, and trying to win games, and with an element of creativity, you know. And I think, you know, talk is cheap and anyone can say anything, and I think that is one thing. But we've shown in the under 21 team, for example, this year, you know, a real creative spark in all our games. But obviously it's a different level. The senior international team is a completely different level. So that is the challenge, to make it a creative attacking team that people can connect with. I think there has been, at various times over the last 10 years, there has been a little disconnect, but I think there has been periods of success in that. Although we haven't qualified for three of the last 4 tournaments. Can you radically change everything in 3 or 4 training sessions? Probably not. Would I try and do that? Probably not. I think, but if there is 5 or 6 games to prepare, it gives you a chance to really get your stamp.
Yeah. So, Nathan, you've been at the press conferences, virtually all of them, and the ones that you could go to over the last while, and you've been at the games. He's on a sticky wicket.
Yeah, there's no question he is. I don't think anyone could have imagined Eoin went through the sort of sideshow of shit showness that has happened, but on the pitch that we'd be 8 games in, that he wouldn't have had a victory and there'd be just the 1 goal. But you cannot ignore everything that has happened. And we're talking and listening to the noise of Anfield back in January. The last game I covered was Ireland-Bulgaria at an empty Aviva Stadium. And this is just not natural football. This is not what playing and representing your country is about. With an Ireland team that day that was missing half a dozen players through injury, through COVID issues, he has had no momentum whatsoever. Literally everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. From that moment that night in Slovakia when Aaron Connolly was ruled out of the game and Adamida. So it's incredibly hard and harsh to judge Stephen Kenny, but that is international management, unfortunately. That is, when you're our Ireland manager, yes, there's a sideshow, but people are just going to look at results. And there's been a divide right from the start of those who feel that Stephen Kenny, with the League of Ireland pedigree, shouldn't be the international manager. Those people will feel that what they've seen has just proven their point. I think, as Eoin says, there's probably been signs, certainly in that Slovakia game, which even with Connolly and Ida missing, was as close as Stephen Kenny has come to having his full first choice 11 out there. That was a really good Irish performance. One of the best Irish performances we've seen, certainly since Euro 2016 and the match against Italy, where they knew what they were about. They created countless opportunities, and they can't take their chances. They just cannot take their chances. And we can talk about the lack of Robbie Keane, the talk of a natural goal scorer. Like, Conor Howard has to take that opportunity, no matter what the size of the match, no matter what the quality of player. When you are standing 8 yards out, the ball at your feet, and you have to hit it either side of a defender standing on the line, you have to take that chance. Alan Brown has to take his chances. So, again, that's not something that's totally out of Stephen Kenny's control, because he picks the teams, he puts those players in those positions. But that is the game that I think you have to make most judgment on. And that was a good, strong, improving, progressive Irish performance. But he's on the back foot. There's no question about that. And these 3 World Cup qualifiers coming up in March, all in the space of a week, he needs to somehow find results, find a bit of rhythm, find a bit of momentum, because the vultures are circling. The vultures have been circling, some of them, since day 1.
The real shame about it all is obviously what's going to be missed out on, obviously, next year, assuming that it's going to be a relatively vibrant European Championships. It's hard to kind of think back on every single tournament Ireland have qualified for and not associate it with a massive cultural moment for Ireland as a country, let alone as a sporting nation. Of course, that goes all the way back to the 90s. Maybe Euro 2012 is the one that
you'd know Eoin wasn't in Poland, wouldn't you?
Well, I was going to say we were all very distant.
Does John Delaney in Sopot count as a major cultural moment?
I think so. I think if you were
the
there,
fields.
I was going to say, with the exception of Euro 2012, unless you were there, every other tournament that Ireland have qualified for has led to some sort of moment of national happiness, whether it's Robbie Keane in 2002 or Robbie Brady in 2016. And obviously, before this century, it's fairly obvious that would something like that have happened again next year? Probably. And we'll never know. That's 2020. That's like all the conversations about Stephen Kenny we can have, the thing is,
but I think that's what we're trying to move past.
That's not going to happen.
In a way, you're dead right. Like the moments are what sum up Irish football, but that's what they are. It's Shane Long's goal. It's Robbie Brady's header. You can't plan for them. You can't predict them. But because they come out of nowhere, the performances come out of nowhere. I think the Stephen Kenny plan is that actually when you go along and you watch Ireland, you'll get a certain standard of performance, a certain standard of entertainment, that it's an enjoyable game of football to watch. And the moments are just a bonus. Whereas I think for the last 15, 16 years, all we've had is the moments. We've had nothing else. We've just had a long run of friendlies and qualifiers that are instantly forgettable. Like, how many regular Ireland games away from the major tournaments stand out in recent times? Very, very few. Where I think actually his plan would be, and this may not happen, to get to a high enough level that when people are going to Lansdowne Road on a Wednesday night for a qualifier, you know it's going to be a good game. You know Ireland are going to play some good, strong, attacking football. And then hopefully you get the moments on top of that. But at least there's entertainment along the way, rather than these one-off moments which come out of nowhere every 4 years. You can't predict and sometimes just don't happen. But again, if results don't happen quickly in March, this is football. The pressure is going to be incredibly, incredibly intense on them.
Well, so look, the World Cup qualifiers, again, it's an unbelievably difficult thing to come out of. We know that traditionally we haven't done as well in these as we have done in Euros, even just in terms of making playoffs, etc. Like, what's an acceptable level? What level of progress does he need to get to for the Vultures to stop circling? Win games and score goals? Does he have to qualify? Does he I
don't think he has to qualify. I think this is it's very straightforward for me. An Irish manager has to qualify for the European Championship, and qualifying for a World Cup is a bonus. Remember, Ireland, third seeds, you have to win your group to qualify automatically. Second seeds are going into a convoluted playoff system with 4 other sides that maybe by the time they come around, Ireland are in a decent and strong position. But it's incredibly difficult. 13 teams from Europe qualify for a World Cup. So qualifying for World Cups is a bonus. But I think he needs to be right in contention going into those last couple of games around the qualifiers. You need to beat the minnows. You need to beat them convincingly. And you need to be strong side who aren't just backs against the wall against the top 2 seeds, hoping for the best and praying that somehow Shane Long will pop up a goal from nowhere from a long ball from Darren Randolph. That actually, this is an Ireland side who sort of know what they're about. But it's much easier said than done. And I think there needs to be hope towards the end of this campaign that Ireland can qualify. They put themselves in a position where they can qualify. But to say that they have to qualify for him to keep his job is like it's
too high. I would say
unfair.
Yeah, it's too high a bar. Owen, what for you? Are we winning the fight for the soul of Irish football, or are we in retreat at the moment, digging our trenches?
In retreat. Definitely in retreat, unfortunately, just because of the way the year has gone in terms of the results. I don't think that in any reasonable mind you should be saying that the battle is over or anything like that. But I think anybody who had quiet reservations about Stephen Kenny beforehand have got a hell of a lot louder after the events of the last few months. And that to me suggests that the people who are on the Stephen Kenny side are in retreat a little bit, but that shouldn't be the case whatsoever. And actually, do you know what, Nathan? I think you're right in terms of not making this a qualify or you're out job for Stephen Kenny. There are ways to mark progress that doesn't involve not necessarily just qualifying for a tournament all the time or not qualifying for a tournament all the time. There is a way to not qualify for a World Cup and also look impressive. There is hopefully going to now be a crop of youngsters that will be the backbone of this team for the next couple of years. We have no real option now when you look at the retirement of someone like David McGoldrick, particularly in the attacking areas. We've just got to hope that someone, even with half the goal scoring capabilities of Robbie Keane, will be able to hold on to that jersey and bring this Irish team to the next level, because it does seem that is the corner piece of the jigsaw. Everything else has clicked at one stage or another. It's just been putting the ball in the back of the net. And those minnows, those results against the minnows will be very interesting. The 4th, 5th seeds, can Ireland actually put them away? Yeah.
Troy Parrott is going to be the new Robbie Keane. You heard it here first. It's an original thought. Copyrighted, patented this New Year's Eve. Something to give us all hope. Looking forward to the future. Nathan, good stuff. Thanks very much. We'll let you go.
Thanks, lads.